Welcome to the Depression Vacation Podcast, where we are depressed, but we're taking a vacation, and it's also a podcast.
It's your one-stop shop for depressive but fun and ADD-style conversation topics.
And you know us, but if you don't know us, I'm Shannon.
I'm Hal.
This is the podcast. We're here. It's Sunday. Well, maybe not for you, but it is for us.
Yeah, it's Monday for everyone else. It's Sunday for us.
Ah, yes.
It's a beautiful morning outside.
Yeah, it's supposed to be really hot tomorrow. I'm really excited. My future in-laws, have the pool ready for our cookout.
Oh, yay.
So I'm excited about that.
Yeah, we did our cookout yesterday, and it was very nice. It was like not a lot of people could make it because Lauren, unfortunately, had her night auditor have to go to the hospital, so she had to work like an ungodly number of hours. And she said drunk Blink-182 people were coming in at 1 a.m.
I forgot about a couple of my coworkers said they were going to that, so I hope they're all good.
Yeah, then my sister didn't show up either with her boyfriend, so it was really just me, Kathy, Steve, my parents, and then Josh and Wallace came by, which was very nice. And we chatted for like 6 hours about movies and everything,
nice.
Book bans and LGBT things.
We love that.
It was I had some more fun doing that with people than I've had with people in a long time.
Oh,
so.
Sure.
I don't know how you're feeling these days, but like I feel like I'm falling apart like this entire last month.
Oh, thank God it's not just me. This last week, I blinked and it was Friday. And I know that a lot of people say that like, oh my God, this week just flew by. But like, honestly, my week was so wild. Like it feels like it happened 1,000 years ago, but also like super fast. I don't know how to tell. Like I saw a car accident on Monday.
I don't know why I laughed at that.
Well, the whole thing is like that was the start to my morning. Like I was on my way to work, and I was at this. I was getting onto 322. It was a right turn only lane, because there were 4 lanes of traffic. You know, there was a barrier in between the two, and somebody turned left out of my right turn only lane. And there was like a kind of a way that they could have gotten to the other side to go the opposite direction. But I'm thinking to myself, well, that's goddamn stupid. And then bam, and I was like, oh shit. So I pulled over, I called 911, and I didn't want to it was on the other side of the highway. So I was like, I don't really want to get out of my car or anything. And then 911 was like, well, can you try to get people away from like the vehicles and things? And I'm like, sure. So I got out of my car and I had like I want to say like 2-3 inch heels on, and I'm like running across 4 lanes of traffic, and I'm like, this is gonna get me killed.
If you can dodge traffic, you can dodge an accident.
Yeah, so that was an interesting morning. And then Tuesday I had a migraine in the afternoon, and then I don't know what happened the rest of the week.
Oh no.
And then it was this morning.
Wow, thankfully you recovered in time to do the Depression Vacation podcast.
Yeah. Well, yesterday Ryan and I went to the Harrisburg Arts Fest that's going on.
Oh, that's right. It's always Memorial Day weekend.
Yeah. So we went yesterday. It's also running today and tomorrow.
Yeah.
But by the time the podcast comes out, it'll probably be pretty much over. So
that's a shame because Lauren's coming by, I think, on Tuesday. So Wednesday is going to be, although I have therapy on Tuesday morning, which I desperately need because I haven't been to a therapist appointment in like 2 months.
Oof, how?
Yeah, it's been, so I had an appointment 2 months ago that I totally had to cancel because I was down in Wilmington with Kathy when she had like her whole health thing. And then my therapist and I kind of played like appointment tag for like 2 weeks. And then I made an appointment for I think it was last Thursday. Yeah, it would have been, last Thursday. And then I totally forgot about it because like, I've had a lot going on, but that's not really the excuse. The excuse is I just flat out forgot. My parents were leaving, so I went over in the morning to like get all the stuff ready for them to go and me to watch the dogs. And then I got an email from my therapist being like, "Hey Hal, just making sure you're okay." And then we played appointment tag for a little bit longer, and we settled on Tuesday at 10 a.m. because I have been an absolute mess, like I said, and I need a therapist appointment.
Well, the thing is, like, there's nothing like missing an appointment with your therapist. They always get so anxious.
Yeah.
And I know that's bad, but like I had a therapist once. I completely forgot our appointment, and he like called me and he was like, "Oh my God, thank goodness you're alive." Yeah. And I was like, "Oh God." And he was like, "Well, it's not like you not to come to an appointment, and like it was all of a sudden, and I just, and I was like, no, I totally get it. Like, I'd be nervous too. Yeah. So, yeah.
Yeah. Well, I mentioned this to Karen because I was like, I feel so bad. And she's like, speaking as a former therapist, it happens all the time. And also, like, having the last girlfriend being a therapist, too, I know, like, from just days off where I was hanging around on weekdays, you'd be like, oh, yeah, I had a no-show at 11. Do you want to get lunch or something like that? So it does happen with some regularity. It doesn't make me feel any better about the fact that I totally...
Yeah.
And also, I think what the worst thing is it's becoming a pattern of behavior with me. Like, I never missed appointments before. But I could think of at least one other time I totally missed an appointment with this therapist. And I can think of another time about a year ago, I missed an appointment with the previous therapist, which that's a fun story, actually. So in a weird random world of somewhat uncomfortableness, a couple weeks ago, Lauren and I went out to Millworks for dinner, and we went up to like the rooftop just to like have drinks and everything. And as I was walking in, my former therapist was walking out with a friend. I didn't say anything because I know they're not supposed to say anything. I don't even know if she saw me, honestly. But as soon as she left, I was like, hey, Lauren, fun story. That was my former therapist who just walked out in front of us. Like, oh, fun.
I don't know if I've ever told you this story, but so at the beginning of the pandemic, well, right before it started, really, I had just graduated from Penn State. And so for the last 2 years at Penn State, I had been doing therapy through the health, like through the student health
Yeah,
thing.
you mentioned this a couple of times because you really gelled with this particular therapist.
Yeah. And so after, going through all this, I graduated, and of course he couldn't be my therapist anymore because I, wasn't going to be a student there anymore. So the psychiatrist that was working at the student health center was like, hey, I do have a private practice if you want to go there, and I have licensed therapists on staff. I'm like, okay, cool. So then I can keep my same psychiatrist and then have a therapist, and it's all under one umbrella. Okay, I'm cool with that.
Yeah.
So then I had like 1 or 2 in-person appointments and with this new therapist and everything. It was going really well. And then the pandemic shut everything down, and I couldn't. So I kept trying to get in contact with this therapist, and eventually she got back to me and she was like, listen, I can't do remote. Like, I have kids at home. I mean, it's just not really possible for me to do therapy remotely. So it was the first time, too, that I had a female therapist. And so she was like, I know this is like terrible timing, and like you're just now introducing like positive female presences into your life, and now I'm about to abandon you. And I'm like, well, it's a pandemic, and like I get it, it's one of those things. So, I mean, then we go through the whole pandemic, and one day I'm at HMAC, and I see this woman, and she's looking at me funny, and she was a bartender, and I was like, I don't know how I know this one, but she like came around and she was like, do you remember me? And I was like, no. And she was like, I'm not supposed to say anything, but I was your therapist for like 2 months.
And she was bartending at HMAC?
Yeah. And
interesting.
She's like, I never stopped thinking about you. I've always wondered like how you've been, and like I know that you were going through a lot, and just overall, anyone who knows anything's more than skin deep about me is probably worried about me if they don't see me for a while.
I love stories like this are fun. Like, it just kind of reminded me, like, somewhat getting off the topic of therapy. When I was working at WITF, one of the many jobs I did was I was the transcriptionist for all of the footage that went through. So I watched and wrote out verbatim, like, everything in every single interview for about 3 years, which was fascinating because you learn a lot about literally everything by typing things out verbatim. And occasionally in real life, I would run into the people that I had transcribed because usually for like an hour and a half interview, that's like 3 to 4 days minimum of spending time with this person left and right. So you recognize who they are. And it was always so odd because I would be like, I want to say hi to them, but they have no fucking idea who I am.
Yeah.
Like one of them was a city council woman who was like very prominent for Harrisburg. And I saw her and I almost like walked over to her and I could tell she looked at me because she didn't know who I was, and then sort of backed off, and I was like, oh, wow, that would have been really weird. And in fact, another time, too, one of the ones was another city council member I transcribed, came to my front door campaigning for another person, and I'm like, hey, you don't know me, but you're Ben Allett. I remember you because you were doing a transcription for a Keystone Crossroads report years ago, and I did the transcription report for it. And it's like, oh, cool, and then walk away.
Neato. Yeah.
Because you feel like you spend time with these people and they're your friends, and then you meet them in real life and they're justifiably weirded out by you.
I feel like that's kind of like how the podcast is kind of turning out to be, like where there are people who listen to the podcast that I haven't met yet. And so like then when I meet them and they're just like, oh my gosh, you're Shannon and I know everything about you. And I'm like, this is an unintended consequence of my own actions.
Was Allie Jacobs one of these people?
No, well, I kind of knew Allie, and I love Allie.
Oh, that's right, because you worked with Allie.
Yeah.
But you were all masked, so I keep forgetting that you all worked together on that.
Yeah, like I only met her in person once, like, what was it now, like 2 or 3 years ago.
Yeah, that's crazy.
Almost 3 years ago.
Yeah, 3 years in October.
Jesus Christ. Anyway, but yeah, no, I mean, it took me a second, like, to figure out where, I mean, and I knew that I knew her, but I was like, I don't know where I know you. And I felt bad about it. But at the same time, it's just like one of those things where, you know, and especially like in our circles with comedy and improv and Vidjam, like.
They all bleed together somewhat. So
yeah, I mean, we all kind of hear about people here and there and all that kind of thing. So it's like, I know you, but I don't know you.
Yeah. The funny thing is with Allie, too, I have exactly the same relationship with her because I knew her before we started doing improv and movies together, but I kind of had forgotten because she was a good friend of the kid who lived up the street from me, who like early in childhood was my best friend. And we used, like at his parties, I knew her. Like we talked a lot. We drank beer and played beer pong lots of times as, you know, young 20-year-olds do. And then, like, you know, went to California, like, came back, didn't do anything for 2 years, got involved in improv. And Allie was like, I know you. You used to hang out at the Howard House all the time. And I'm like, oh, I know you too. Oh, and then became re-friends again. But yeah, when you meet my sisters, they'll probably be the same way. They'll be like, I know you, because the podcast was actually a huge topic of conversation yesterday. Yes. And speaking a little bit to what you were talking about, we were just having conversations about things. And every so often, Josh would point at me and be like, I know this because I heard your opinion of this on the podcast. I'm like, oh man, I guess I won't talk then. Like,
oh yeah, it's like it's kind of a little hack then, because we don't have to actually have conversations with people because they can just listen to our conversations and they'll know how we feel about everything.
I repeat myself so often anyway. So.
I do too. Yeah. So this is our entire personality, guys. So.
But Wall said something very sweet, I thought, which he said, which we need to have him back on the podcast again sometime.
I miss you, Wallace.
I have invited him a few times, but just the schedule hasn't worked out.
Yeah.
And he said that the thing he likes about it is it's sort of like a safe space conversation. Like he said, we make everybody, or when he said everybody, he said like
the
him and he
things.
feels the guests like feel safe. And so we just have like candid, vulnerable conversations, which is nice, I think.
I do think that is part of our charm, like the vulnerability and the candidness. Because, I mean, and it in a weird way, it's kind of like when you're posting on the internet, because like I know that a lot of people are going to hear this, or more than just you and me, but because it feels private, you know, you feel more comfortable just saying what is going on and how you feel. And like, I feel like we have a really great relationship as friends where, you know, I mean, there's really nothing off the table in terms of what we can talk about, and then just put a microphone in front of us and everybody else can hear about it too.
Yeah, if you're talking about blowjob etiquette during a podcast, there's probably not much else you can't talk about.
No,
and
exactly.
Mother issues.
And puppet cum.
Oh my God, puppet. Speaking of which, I did go and watch the Happy Time Murders after last week. I do not think that was a bad movie.
No, it wasn't.
No.
It was just vulgar, and that's the only thing that like.
Yeah.
A little, yeah. And what I mean by vulgar is like not too vulgar for people like you and me, but for a parent who's like, that's like Sesame Street and takes their kids.
So the Happy Time Murders got eviscerated, like review-wise, when it came out. And I actually thought a lot of that was very interesting. I thought it was really well done. And I was really interested, especially in the end credits, where they showed how they did some of the more complicated puppet movements, which was people in green suits. Which is a little bit cheating, sort of, as puppetry goes. But I still thought it was like, they did a lot of very interesting technical things, as I would expect from Brian Henson, who's probably like the reigning...
puppet master.
Yeah, he's probably the reigning puppet master director of left now that Jim Henson is gone, since he directed a lot of the Muppet movies anyway. But yeah, Happy Time Murders I thought was, I mean, I'm not going to say it was a great movie.
Yeah,
there was
a lot
of puppet cum, not just the cow, like you were mentioning, but then like the entire scene... in the detective's office.
Yes.
But the interesting thing was, like, I didn't look up who any of the puppet voices were ahead of time because I was trying to figure out who they were. And my guess for the main guy was actually Michael Imperioli. It sounded a lot like Chris from The Sopranos. And then I was surprised to look him up, and he was just a Muppeteer voice. Like, he had done basically all of Electric Mayhem, like specifically Dr. Teeth, but like 10 or 12 other Muppet characters. And yeah, I was considering my expectations were rock bottom low for Happy Time Murders, except for Puppet Cum.
Yes.
You know, I liked Happy Time Murders.
I mean, when you hear the term puppet cum, it just delivers on itself, you know?
Yeah. Hal, Shannon, and Allie talk about Puppet Cum. You have no idea how much I wanted to make that the title of you.
Yeah.
But yeah, going back to the vulnerability thing, I have something horrifying that happened to me at work this week.
I'm ready.
Oh, yeah. So this is a bit of a longer story, too, and it's a bit more of like a phase of my life where I feel like I'm losing control in general. Is like, I don't know what it is, but I keep gaining weight no matter what. And I do try to exercise a lot, but then I'm losing like energy because I'm gaining weight. And like, it's this bad cycle where I'll go some periods where I'm doing really well. And then somewhere it feels a lot of times like 3 steps forward, 4 steps back. And my boss actually called me into her office this week to tell me that there were complaints that my clothes were too tight on the lottery, which is horrifying to me.
It is
like,
horrifying.
Yeah. It was like, she tried so hard to be very respectful to, like, she did her best, and I really respected and appreciated that she tried her best to have a respectful conversation about that, but it was just incredibly humiliating. Like, especially, she said she had to go to HR to get guidelines on how to talk to me about this, and I'm like, why would you tell me this? If you're going to tell me I'm too fat for TV, I want the minimum number of people involved.
Okay, well, first of all, you're not too fat for TV.
Thank you.
We've seen plenty. I mean, there's just so much evidence to the contrary. But no, I can understand like how that can really, you know, just be a horrifying conversation. I had a similar conversation happen, and I don't remember if I told you about this before, but when I was working for the movie theater, I had to get pulled in for an HR conversation because I had casually mentioned that I was going on a date with a woman. And
that is not acceptable in the AMC family.
Well, it wasn't that. They were just like, it made an associate feel uncomfortable. And they were like, was there anything like vulgar or anything like that? That's my word of the day, I guess. Like, was there anything inappropriate that you discussed? Like, and I was like, no, I mean, if I had said, if I had said the same thing in relation to a guy, it would have been, it wouldn't have made anyone blink an eye. It was just the fact that it was same sex. Oh. And they were like, okay, well, you have to be careful not to offend anyone and all that kind of thing. And I was humiliated and horrified. And like my boss, who's now my best friend, because we don't work there anymore and we're allowed to be best friends. She was heartbroken for me because like it was the two of us on the phone with the HR rep, and I was just like, I couldn't believe that I had offended someone so much that they like reported me to HR. Now, like part of it too was just that there was a lot going on in the sense of like, I don't know what it was about that particular collection of people, but they were constantly trying to like sabotage the managers and things like that. It's just like that guy I talked about before on the podcast, like the very tall one that intimidated us, and
the jerk
we had
ass.
to fire him. Yeah. So I mean, it was, but I completely get where you're coming from, where it's like things that are very personal, and when they come to you in a it makes you feel like you're doing something wrong.
Yeah, I've had a couple of HR conversations actually with this particular boss over the years I've worked there that have all stemmed from complaints from coworkers, strangely enough. Like there was at one point, like I was taking a new medication 5 years ago that was just like, as I was acclimating, I had to pee a lot basically. And there were complaints from my coworkers I was going to the bathroom too much.
Yeah.
And I actually like teared up a little bit during this like conversation. I'm like, this is embarrassing. Like I'm on a new medication that's making me go to the bathroom a bit more than usual, and like this is a weird thing to complain about. There's the same one who doesn't work there anymore, thankfully. She complained I was adjusting myself too much when I was at the studio, which I've never loved my crotch that much that I have to touch it that much. And
wow.
Yeah, so there were a lot of like weird HR conversations involved with that. Although being too fat for my clothes is definitely a new one, and just like
Well, I'm sorry that happened.
Oh my God, you have no idea the I went home that was Thursday and I was working a 9 to 5 and I was excited because I was like, oh, I'm going to go to stand up and Lauren was actually going to come out and see me, come into the Comedy Zone for the first time. But then Lauren had an MS flare up and couldn't make it out. And then the "you're too fat for camera" conversation happened. And I told Karen, I'm like, I'm just going to go home. I don't think I can go out tonight. And so I just sat in my room and watched Rocko's Modern Life and ate a frozen pizza.
That was the appropriate response.
Yeah, but it's one of those things where fitness was something I was always super into too, and it was this is kind of a new thing where I'm really just losing the energy to do things regardless of diet. Diet's improved for me significantly. I'm green juicing all over the place. It was giving me energy for a little bit, but now it's just I'm worried I'm getting into this downward spiral where I just can't do anything anymore, which is terrifying to me.
Well, I'm glad that you have a therapy appointment coming up.
Oh my God, yes.
It could not come at a better time.
I agree. And not only that, but I was talking to you a little bit before about this too, because I wanted to talk about the Vidjam collaborative project.
Yes.
And this was something that gave me, I remember I told you around October of last year that with our horror Vidjam, I had a lot of anxiety dreams about that. Over the course of the month that I wasn't able to shoot this particular Vidjam, I had so many anxiety dreams about it because I lost the first 2 weeks because Kathy was sick and I was in Delaware or watching the dogs, and then my basement flooded the next week. And then we had everything together and we were going to shoot week 4, or no, I guess it was week 3. And then the day, because Ryan could only shoot on Sundays, the day we were going to shoot, one of my coworkers called off, so I had to work a full day on Sunday. And then got a week extension. And while we were shooting, actually last Sunday too, my boss called me and asked me if I could work again. And I was like, no way, I'm making up the shoot that I lost when I covered 2 weeks ago. Mm-hmm. And I finally got done Wednesday afternoon, and it feels like a weight's been lifted off my shoulders. It was I think it's a very high quality movie. Ryan Lockman was amazing in it, by the way.
Nice.
And I would like to work with him as an actor more often, but it just took up a lot of mental energy.
Yeah, no, I completely understand that. I actually scheduled a psychiatry appointment for myself.
Oh, okay.
For a couple of weeks from now, because I think my ADHD is starting to get kind of out of control. And I think it has to do with a lot of different things, but I've just felt so out of focus. I've been procrastinating horribly.
Yeah.
Just horribly. Even the little things, just phone calls I have to make, or things I have to do for my clients, and it's really impacting my work. So I was like, I need to get this figured out. So I'm not currently medicated for ADHD.
That was going to be my next question. Yeah.
No, I'm just medicated for the anxiety and depression. And I actually haven't been medicated for ADHD since I was 12 or 13.
Yeah.
So I've been kind of raw dogging life up until this point.
Well, I find for me, this may not apply to you, but the anxiety medication definitely helps a bit with procrastinating with things.
It does. I just think there's a lot of exterior factors as well. We're coming up on the almost year anniversary of when I was fired, and then I was depressed for 3 months, and then, I've been in this new job for about 6 months now, and I just feel like I haven't gotten my groove back. And then with the wedding planning, and also with all of the emotional healing and growth that I'm going through right now, it's a very difficult time.
Yeah. Plus the mom stuff on top of all that too.
Yeah.
A lot of complicated things going on for Shannon Fields these days.
Yep. So I wanted to share because it makes me feel a little silly, but it was suggested by a therapist, so don't anybody come at me. And I don't think anybody would on this podcast because everybody is super nice.
I would come after you if there wasn't a mixer in between us right now. You should thank the mixer. The mixer is the only thing saving your life.
Thank you, Mr. Mixer. You are my hope and joy. Anyway, so Ryan and I had a premarital counseling appointment last week.
Okay.
And we got into talking about my childhood because we love to talk about that. And this was the first time that I had shared with this particular therapist things about my childhood that I went through and all of the nonsense. And he was visibly moved by the whole thing. I felt bad. Like, I didn't feel bad, but he was like, I really can't do this, and I'm not going to, but I feel like I have to give you a hug. And so, I mean, I was like, well, it is what it is. And so, like, I shared some, I actually had a little bit of an emotional breakthrough where I finally was able to tap into some emotions that I've been avoiding. And it was very emotional, and I don't know if I've cried like that in a long time.
Aww.
In front of other people, especially. And so the therapist suggested an exercise that I have taken him up on is he suggested for me to get a baby doll or like a stuffed animal that will represent my inner child.
Herm.
And I'm supposed to love it and talk to it and say things to, well, her. I'm supposed to. So I'm supposed to. We asked, like, the bunny came. I ordered a stuffed bunny. Because I was like, I mean, it might work, it might not, I don't know. But I saw the picture of it on Amazon, and I was like, I could feel bad for that. Because, like, initially I thought, I've been meaning to get, like, a Korok plushie. And then I was looking at the Korok. I was looking at it on Amazon. I was like, I don't feel bad for you at all. I have no sympathy.
Oh, no. Koroks I fucking despise. And I despise that I need them.
Yeah, I know. Yeah, haha, you found me.
I hate, as a side, because I know we'll talk about Zelda later, but
Yeah.
I hate that now it's not enough that I found the Korok. I actually have to transport them to another Korok. As if they weren't irritating enough already.
I know.
But yeah, continue about the plushie.
So anyway, I was to name her Shannon, and I just got her in the mail yesterday, and so we're very early in this exercise, and like, I already feel very attached to the stuffed animal, and like, I think it went really well yesterday. I still am not tapping into emotions like I'd like to be.
Yeah.
But I mean, I'm sure it's a process and that kind of thing. But I just want to give a shout out to Ryan, who's been like incredibly supportive of this exercise, and like, he gave me like some space yesterday to just like, he went on a walk, and I just kind of was home with the plushie, and I was like, hello, small Shannon.
I don't want to laugh at this because this is...
I know. But I mean, I'm laughing at it. So, but yeah, the things that, and like, I can kind of see it, like how it's going to be helpful. It just makes you feel a little silly, but I mean, it is what it is.
I mean, if it works, it works. Like, it doesn't matter how silly something could be. Like, I remember when I was a kid, I had a psychologist for a little bit because I was being bullied so badly at school that I just didn't want to go to school anymore. And I refused to go to school for an entire week at one point because, like, a bully had been particularly mean to me about something. And I just felt totally hopeless. That's a common theme in how I feel all the time when I'm super down. And I've talked to my therapist about this. It's just like, it's more of a feeling of hopelessness. Like, especially after the you're too fat for your clothes on the lottery. I'm like, I'm trying everything, man. Is it just not worth it anymore to try anything and maybe just sink into my fatness and play Tears of the Kingdom until I die prematurely?
Well, you can do some of those things, and by some, I mean Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, it's just affecting all of my life, too. Like, another thing that sort of, it used to bring me a lot of joy, like running with my friend Rachel, like, once a week. I love doing it because I love, like, just catching up with her and, like, running and doing something constructive. But it's become so much harder for me to finish 3 miles these days that, like, a lot of the time, I'll sometimes just put it off until next week because, like, I'm afraid that I'm not going to do well and just like be a burden as she's trying to run 3 miles. And yeah, it's just that all contributes to. But where I was going with this originally was like my child psychologist had suggested to me, since I was into swords and things like that. It's like, why don't you take a pillow and just take one of your toy swords? And if you're angry about something, just whack it as hard as possible. I broke a lot of pillows that way. So
you can break a pillow?
You can if you're a strong 12-year-old with a lot of anger and sadness issues. And a sword.
I was not a strong 12-year-old. And to this day, I'm not a strong 12-year-old.
Yeah.
Oh well.
Oh, well, it's important to accept who you are in the world.
That's
sometimes.
True. I try. So Legend of Zelda, Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, we've talked enough about depressing shit already, although we'll somehow get back to it.
I'm sure we will.
The title Tears of the Kingdom already denotes sadness. Although I'm assuming like how the Tears of the Kingdom are just the parts of the Zenite like culture that are falling like the rocks that you reverse to go back to the Sky Islands.
Not exactly. I don't want to spoil it for you. So
yeah, because I've barely scratched at this point. I'm off of the Great Sky Peninsula.
Yeah.
I know that's not the name of it.
Archipelago or something. I don't know.
Yeah, I'm just calling it that because it was the Great Peninsula was the tutorial in the original.
Yeah. The Great Plateau.
Or the Great Plateau.
Yeah.
That was a lot of fun. It's interesting. Yeah. Like learning the Ultra Hand stuff is pretty cool. And I've just gotten back down to the surface. And I think I've gotten 3 or 4 shrines so far. I went through the... What was it? I'm just at the point where Pura sent me into the air for the first time because I'm sort of just like wandering around the game. But I fucking love it so far. I was worried that like the world of Hyrule from Breath of the Wild would be too familiar with me and I would know where everything is. But it kind of looks like I haven't confirmed this yet, although Pura being more of a grown-up kind of confirms it. But it feels like Link was in stasis for a long time this time around, similar to like the Spring of Awakening in the first game. So, and it looks like Hyrule, because of the chasm, has changed, which I like.
Yeah, I definitely agree there. So, like, since you're not very far, I like I said, I won't spoil it. I do have... So here have I told you my frustrations?
No, please tell me your frustrations.
Let me tell you my frustration. Here's the thing.
Shannon, frustration time. Take it, Zelda. Ooh.
I have logged 190 hours into Breath of the Wild. Ooh. It's a long time. And so, given that, I have about 15 heart containers. I have all the stamina I could ever want, and I have 80,000 rupees.
Oh, you didn't think you were going to take this into the new game, did you?
No.
Okay.
But what I'm saying is I'm very used to playing Breath of the Wild, fighting whatever I want.
Oh, yeah.
Jumping from any height and spending any money on anything. That is not... and now, starting Tears of the Kingdom, I'm like, oh, shit.
Yeah.
I kept getting one hit by things.
Yeah.
I didn't have a paraglider for the longest time.
I only just got the paraglider back, and I was like, well, because I remember when I went to Hyrule Castle to find the guard, my first thing was like, oh, I'm just going to jump off and parasail. And I was like, oh, crap.
Yep. So I have splatted on the face of Hyrule many times. Yeah. And so one thing I do miss, Rivali's Gale. Where is Rivali's Gale?
What is Rivali's Gale? Remind me.
That's the one that shoots you up. So that you can...
Oh, okay. Yeah.
So that you can glide to high places and you don't have to climb up things. And they took that away. And now they have freaking... Eventually you'll get Tulin's power, which gives you a gust of wind forward, but it doesn't shoot you up.
Yeah.
And so the best way you can get up is by using either the Ascend feature, or you could do recall on the falling pieces of island.
Yeah, see, I saw them do recall on falling pieces of island in like the demo.
The gameplay, yeah.
And I tried it on one, and it didn't take me anywhere.
So let me tell you.
Yeah.
I figured it out. Because recall is timed, and so it will only go back so far in time. So if that piece of Sky Island has been laying there longer than the recall time frame, like it's not going to work.
You misunderstand me. Like I saw this thing fall. I ran to it. I used recall. It took me up to a certain level and then just stopped.
Oh yeah.
But then I had a time. I was like, okay, maybe I just have to use recall again, and it just took me up to the same level, and I didn't get anywhere.
Yeah. So I'm not sure. So I haven't gotten back up to a Sky Island from the face of Hyrule. So I don't really know how to get back to the Great Sky Island.
So what do you do? Because this is exactly what just happened to me. And similar to you, like the stamina is the most frustrating thing for me because so what you use are these Pora towers. Yep. I don't even know what they're called, but it shoots you high in the sky.
The Skyview towers.
Yeah. And then I was gliding to one of the great archipelagos, but I forgot that gliding takes up your stamina. So I ran out of stamina. I really tried to time it correctly just to get like the pop so I wouldn't die when I landed. I mistimed it and I fell to one of the sky islands and I died. And that's exactly where I stopped playing 2 days ago. So like that's how you get there, is that you like there's a couple of different ways to do it. You can use the falling pieces to like rewind and go back up too.
Yeah,
but I think the most straightforward is just like using those towers to shoot up in the sky and then paraglide to a tower.
Gotcha. Okay, I'll have to try that because I haven't really felt the need to go back up to the Sky Islands all that much because I'm still I'm trying to. So I just unlocked the entire map. I got all of the Skyview towers.
Oh, you're way ahead of me.
Well, I also beat the first like boss. And then I'm working on investigating the geoglyphs.
Okay, I don't even know what those are yet, so that's how.
Yeah, so they're gonna tell you to go see Impa. Impa starts that process. Yep.
Yeah.
But yeah, I am loving it. I've already logged at least 25 hours on this game. I was playing it this morning. It is my life now.
Yeah, that's part of why I'm excited the Vidjam thing is over, because like. I think I'm probably going to be roped into doing the one this upcoming weekend. But, you know, those are always done in 48 hours anyway.
Yeah.
So, but I'm just excited to be able to play Zelda because, like, I don't know. I'm in desperate need of just relaxing and not having to worry about things. And Tears of the Kingdom is a perfect place to just sort of log in and explore. Like, that's kind of the point of the game that they keep saying, too, is that, like, the people following the linear path of the game are very few. You're just supposed to be dropped in there and find different ways to break the game. Like, apparently, creating sky bikes is a big thing right now. And I've seen how to do it. It's a little bit complicated for my level of building so far. Although everybody's like, it's easy in the grand scheme of things. And I'm like, I'm still new to this.
Oh, yeah. No, I'm not. I keep seeing these TikToks of people being like, we are not playing the same game. Because there are some people who are just so stinking creative, making all sorts of shit. And I'm just like, I was very pleased when I attached one thing to another thing to get me across a chasm.
Yeah. Those wheels took me a while. Like, 'cause the ones like... The temples that are sort of around just where the camp is with Pora were all sort of still tutorial ones. And the wheels took me a while to figure out, like, what direction to even attach them in.
Yeah.
And then what to do with them. Because I kept, like, putting them on the front. And I'm like, why isn't this working? And I was like, oh, it's not pulling you. It's actually pushing you. So
yeah, Ryan has helped me with some of the mechanics of the game because he's looking at it and he's like, why don't you just do this? And I'm like, well, that's not going to work. And he's like, it won't work any other way, Shannon.
That's the fun thing about, like, having a separate set of eyes is sometimes just, like, all you need. In fact, what I ended up doing to figure out the wheels was like, okay, there's a cart crashed in the other room that was using the wheels, so what am I doing wrong? And I looked at that and I'm like, oh, that's what it is. And I think that's what I love about the game so much is that it hit, like, everything is super creativity, and you're just supposed to be able to figure out, like... I think it was one of the creators of the game was saying that, like, the game is meant to be broken, essentially. So
well, and that's, I mean, the AI in this game is so good. Like, just like it's the physics in Hyrule, like the way things are supposed to happen logically happen.
Yeah.
You know, like there's one Skyview tower that has all these thorns in front of it. And it's raining, so you can't just burn them away. And so I'm like looking around, I'm like, how do I do this? And all I had to do was like build a platform over top of the thorns and then light them on fire so it wasn't raining anymore on top of them.
That was honestly, like, I think we've talked about this before, but that was the biggest adjustment for Breath of the Wild for me was like, because I'm used to all these games where you're just not supposed to get to certain places unless you find a game-breaking glitch to surpass it. Yeah. And it took a while to realize that, like, everything in Hyrule was supposed to be a game-breaking glitch. Like, with very few exceptions, you could go anywhere you wanted to.
Yeah. Until, like, really the very edge of the map. Like, because I got to the point in Breath of the Wild where I was like, I'm just going to scout the perimeter of Hyrule and see what is at the very edges of Hyrule.
Man. That takes days. I can only think of a couple of times where I actually even fell into the perimeter of Hyrule because it was so expansive.
Oh no, I started like up near Death Mountain and literally just went around the edge of Hyrule. And because I've completed nearly everything in Breath of the Wild. There's only 2 side quests that I haven't done, and that were DLC. I've completed the entire game.
Yeah. I stopped at 119 shrines just because the last shrine was the one that only comes up after you completed every side quest in Cairo Village, and I was like, I'm over it. I was one shrine away from getting Green Link.
Nice. Yeah, no, I got all the shrines, all of everything. I have beat I'm pretty sure I've beaten almost every monster, like major monster in the game. Mm-hmm. But like I loved Breath of the Wild so much, and Tears of the Kingdom is coming very close. It may surpass Breath of the Wild for me, but I'm still not as strong or have as much money as I would like, because I like just kind of doing whatever I want. Yeah,
when I got to the very first shop to buy some like armor or clothes, I only had one ruby in my entire like collection. And so and then everything else sold for peanuts. So I was like, okay, I can only buy a tunic, but I'll be back later, I suppose. But there are some mechanics that it's like playing Breath of the Wild. Like I didn't cook almost anything for the first like 80% of Breath of the Wild before. But now I know how to cook things. I know like the whole mechanics behind that. Mm-hmm. The mechanics behind combat are a little bit better too, because again, I didn't target anything the entire game.
So that being said, I did log about 190 hours in Breath of the Wild, and none of that included dodging whatsoever.
Same here. Well, that's what made the second form of the Calamity so hard, was you could only use like Ubora's Thunder, or you had to do a Flurry Rush. And I'm like, well, fuck, I didn't do a Flurry Rush the entire game.
Same, yeah. Well, now that I know how to do it and I practiced it, I'm getting much better at it. Mm-hmm. So, but that's the thing, is like I don't like games that you have to do a whole bunch. I like the button mashers. When I'm fighting a monster, I don't want to like back off and try to re-strategize and all that kind of stuff and use different powers and things. I just want to hit him as quickly as possible so I can move on to the next thing.
Yeah, kind of the same here. And that's why like a lot of those tests of strength in the original game were very difficult. Until you find out that every single one of them, even the hardest ones, have the same pattern of fighting. Like after you kill one of the very like significant test of strength things, you kind of figure out what all the patterns were, and like just getting them to run into pillars or things like that.
Yeah, there's a very scary monster in this new game that you haven't run into yet.
Is it the three-headed dragon thingy?
No, okay. I haven't even touched those yet. There's they're Phantom Ganon hands.
Oh.
Have you seen those?
No, but I mean, you haven't played any of the other Zeldas, right?
Well, I played my first Zelda game was the Minish Cap.
Okay, yeah, there were no. So these hands are like they existed in the original Legend of Zelda too, and in Link to the Past. In the original Legend of Zelda, if you got too close to walls, they would come out and grab you. And as a child, like a 3 or 4 year old watching my dad play this game, the hands absolutely terrified me. And then I became obsessed with them. So much that I would talk about them in preschool all the time, because that was like the only way I could not be scared about them, was being obsessed with them.
Hal was like avoiding all the walls places.
Oh my God. It was so like, I mean, it was terrifying. Like they would just come out, grab you and take you back to the entrance of the dungeon. And then Link to the Past, they were only in 2 dungeons in Link to the Past, but they were even worse because they would just drop down from any point in the ceiling. You'd hear the pew, and then if you were unlucky to be grabbed, it would take you back up and take you to the entrance.
These ones, you're running towards something, and all of a sudden, gloom rises from the ground.
Oh, that's scary.
The hands pop out of the ground, and then they start chasing you.
I'm glad that they brought them back, because this was like the first terrifying thing I ever encountered in a video game, but this sounds like they've made them even more terrifying.
Yeah, they're pretty, yeah.
They have a name, too, and it's a really dumb name, but I couldn't tell you off the top of my head.
It just says...
They're just hands.
Phantom Ganon, I think it says.
Yeah, and it's very clear that the mummy that you found under Hyrule Castle is Ganondorf, right? Like, because that looked exactly like Ganondorf.
Well...
Spoiler alert for like the first 2 minutes of the game, by the way.
I don't recall. So I haven't quite gotten there yet, because I can't really tell if the mummy is Ganondorf or like the Demon King, or like
maybe they're the same.
Maybe they're one and the same. I'm not quite sure at this point. When you start going to the geoglyphs, you'll start seeing memories like you did in Breath of the Wild of Zelda, and you're going to find out where she is and all that kind of thing. And I actually waited a long time before starting to investigate the geoglyphs. I actually didn't start doing that until I beat the first boss in Rito Village.
I have a gripe with the game already. I'll tell you.
Go ahead.
Okay, so my gripe is, one of the things I really loved about Breath of the Wild, are you familiar with the convoluted timeline of the Zelda series?
Yes.
All right, so I loved Breath of the Wild because it was supposed to be like the convergence of every timeline. Like, the implication was no matter what Link did right or wrong over the course of every other game, the end game was always the calamity. And I was like, that is a very cool idea, that like all paths would converge regardless of what happened. But it's very evident from reading the hieroglyphs in the basement of Hyrule Castle that this connects to, because they said the Ceiling War, which is the hero loses timeline from Ocarina of Time, because if Link doesn't beat Ganondorf in Ocarina of Time, that's when the Ceiling War occurs. So it feels like they've now shoehorned themselves into, and I could be wrong if any listeners out there can offer an explanation as to why the Ceiling War would have happened in any of the timelines anyway. But the implication I got was like, oh man, now they've gone with the Link to the Past timeline.
I don't know enough about it. I don't think I'm far enough into the game to really give you an answer on that.
Okay.
But I do highly suggest, obviously, unlocking the map as quickly as possible, but also...
That's kind of what I did in the first game, too.
Yeah, unlocking the map. Because my first mistake was running straight to Rito Village to, be kind of like the divine... It's their version of, the temples, the divine beasts and all that. So I went straight there, and I was like, I can handle it. And then the boss came out, and then I immediately died. And then I fast traveled out of it. And Tulin, the Rito warrior who's helping you, Tulin was like, Link, are you going somewhere? I'll stay here and investigate this and try to find Princess Zelda. And I was like,
thanks, Tulin.
You're going to die, Tulin. Bye.
He's like, I'm an NPC. I can only die in my own head.
Yeah, so it was a little rough. And so I ditched that, then went and got stronger, got more hearts and stamina and stuff, and 200 arrows, and then I went back to Rito Village.
Very cool.
Yeah.
Yeah, I'm going to log so many hundreds of hours in this game.
I'm so ready.
That's kind of what I'm telling everybody. And it's so, it's unfortunate it's happened now, because I was finally playing the ActRaiser remake for Switch, which was fantastic, and I got for $8 on sale, too.
Nice.
And I still have Tactics Ogre, and the Final Fantasy VII Crisis Core remake my brother-in-law got me for Christmas. I have all these great games, and Ni no Kuni too. And there's no way I'm touching any of these games for the longest time. But, if it gets me away from playing too much Hearthstone, which I'm guilty of, I think that I'll be okay. Which, this was the first month, in 7 months, I did not reach Legends level on Hearthstone.
Nice.
So, maybe that'll de-incentivize me from playing more in the future, because it's I really enjoy it. It's a fun game. It teaches you consistently different meta games to follow, but I think I play it too much. So
fair enough. All right, how much time do we have?
We have 15 minutes still.
15 minutes.
Yeah. What else is bumming you out this week, Shannon?
Not a whole lot. I guess my cat got out last night, but then we got him back. He's such a pain in the ass.
Is this Happy?
Happy, yes, that ungrateful little shit.
Aww. Of course his name would be Happy, the ungrateful little shit.
I know. He was Ryan was coming in, and he goes, Happy's out. And I was like, oh my God. So the thing with Happy, though, is he'll just run under the nearest car. He doesn't really go far.
Yeah.
And so we got him back inside, and Ryan was like, I feel bad because he wants to be outside. I'm like, yeah, but he's not going outside because he's it's dangerous. I don't want him to be out there.
Yeah.
And Ryan was like, well, don't we have a harness? I'm like, I've never tried it with Happy, and cats and harnesses, yeah, sometimes they work, but really, you really have to train them on the harness, because they can easily get out of those most times.
You should definitely try it at some point and see if it just works for Happy.
Well, we did last night after he got out. We were like, okay, well, let's try a harness, because we don't want to, you're not supposed to discipline your cat. So we were trying to
cats do not respond to discipline. They just get more fuck you, essentially.
Yeah. So we took him out in the harness, and he slipped out of it. And I was like, well, I don't know what else to do. So,
Aww.
but the thing is, like, we take him on walks all the time. We have a stroller that is enclosed. So, I mean, he gets outside time, and we do our best to, like, give him a fulfilling life.
It's very, like, so my parents' cats have always been, and sort of by extension my cats, because I've lived with them for various periods while these cats were alive. They've always been indoor-outdoor cats. And because they also, like, we live in a neighborhood where it's a little bit more conducive to outdoor cats. Mario, who's the 15-year-old, like way bucks the trend. Like he's an outdoor cat. He's lived a long time. It makes him healthier because he gets more exercise, and he's just avoided like all of the predators, diseases, and whatnot that you get from being out. However, his brother vanished when he was 2, and then Kit Kat, who was our other like tuxedo cat around that time, was hit by a car like a little bit afterwards. So, and then Baby, who's the other like tuxedo cat that we have, has been an outdoor cat for like 9 years now, and she is doing fine. So it's really hit or miss with like I believe the cats have a much more fulfilling life if they get to be outdoor, but you have to also accept the fact that A, they could be killed by a lot of things, or even worse, B, they're going to kill a lot of things, because Baby has killed a number of birds and mice outside.
Yeah. So, I mean, and I think part of it is, like, my apartment is pretty small. So I keep telling Ryan, I'm like, listen, once the wedding's over and we, get a house eventually, like, they'll have more room and they'll be more satisfied. We'll build a little catio.
A catio.
Yes.
Oh, I love that.
Yeah, I'm excited for that. But, yeah, I mean, in the meantime, we're just going to have to take him out in the stroller.
Yeah. I love that. Also, it'll be slightly easier to buy a house because the U.S. is not going to default on its debt in 5 days.
Oh, good.
Yeah, at least that's what I've been reading on NPR out of morbid curiosity.
Well, yeah, and I mean, who wouldn't want to know, I guess. Yeah.
Morbid curiosity about all of our financial futures.
Yep.
Also, what probably would be my tax return too, because I filed for the first year ever. I filed an extension this year because there is some sort of like program for first-time house buyers. That I could get like a substantial amount more of money back, and I just didn't have the time to like make sure I did that correctly. So I should probably get on that because, the government's going to be stingy with giving me my money, and I need money. So
yeah, you should get on that.
That was also part of the conversation with my boss, which was like really also embarrassing over the "you're too fat for your clothes" conversation, was that I just can't fucking afford to buy another suit right now. Like especially student loans are coming back soon. I'm already like very hand to mouth, like paying the mortgage by myself and just like changing all of my spending habits and like, too fat for my clothes, can't afford new clothes. What the fuck do you do?
Right, yeah.
Except cry and eat a frozen pizza.
Yeah. Oh my goodness. Lots going on.
Yeah, so much going on. But I have a feeling things are going to get better in the future. Like, I am looking forward to the collaborative film is going to screen July 8th, I want to say, at Midtown Cinema. And there's 2 screenings. And definitely come out for it because we all divide the proceeds from the screening for this particular one. So Hal will make a little bit of money for his filmmaking finally if people fill the theater, which we're kind of hoping for.
Yeah.
So, but there's that coming up. There's the other Vidjam, like the first of the 48 hours. The production period starts this weekend. So do you want to do a movie, Shannon?
Yeah, I'll do a movie.
Cool. Like I'm putting together a very piecemeal team and very much this year. I do not want to have to run the show as much. So like we're going to have a story meeting. Cool. Everybody's going to like fill in story stuff and we'll write something. Yeah. And it should be a fun time, hopefully. I mean, I'll still like be stressed out that weekend, but as opposed to the collaborative project, the stress ends Sunday at 7, regardless of whether or not I do everything correctly. So.
Yeah, exactly. All right. Yeah. So I'll be in your movie and Ryan will be by extension.
That's cool. Yeah. Cause we because of like how piecemeal and how much I drove myself crazy doing this last movie, you guys were not. I did ask you at the very last second to be the therapist, but it was like a horribly last second thing. And
it was just kind of Ryan was just getting back from a gig in South Carolina.
Oh wow! Band gig or
he was playing trombone. So like he was getting back that day, and I was like, he's not gonna want to do anything like after being on a plane and all that. Ryan doesn't travel well, so
it's very important to like know when you need rest too. Like,
yeah,
as if any of Hal's anxieties over this project have come to light, like when you need rest is very important for your own physical and mental well-being.
Yeah.
So, but we ended up Sam Miller ended up playing the psychologist. He was very good. He was a little nervous, like remembering his lines, but there's also a funny like side bit to it too, is that one of our shared scenes was with Sam's group directly after the therapy scene, and Ben Chadwell, I guess it's minor spoilers for the movie, but is playing a Grim Reaper in Sam's movie. And the shared scene was like Ryan Lockman and Ben just meet outside the therapist's office, and Ryan gives him directions because he's looking for something, and then he walks into the house, and Sam Melville was watching the movie, and she's like, you know, Hal, I just realized the implication is that Ben is going to kill Sam because he's the Grim Reaper and he's walking into the therapist's office. And I'm like, oh man, Ryan's therapist is going to die. He's going to be so bummed.
Oh gosh. Yeah.
But I'm excited to screen the movie. It's probably the biggest thing I have done all year so far, like show-wise or entertainment-wise, and I think it's going to be a fun time. So
all right.
I'll mention it many more times before July 8th, but everybody come out to the cinema July 8th, get yourself a 0-day beer, and enjoy what should be about an hour-long movie presentation of 5 filmmakers who put together short films.
Nice.
So it'll also be, because Wallace and I talked a lot about this last night, Wallace McKelvey, John Stoltzfus, Sam Melville, Sam Miller, and me.
Nice.
We're the 5 filmmakers for it.
Awesome. Well, we're looking forward to that.
Yeah.
Let's see.
You just had a show, right? Or
I did. This past weekend, I was at the Castlerig Wine Shop. That was a lot of fun.
Those are the Gary Lamo shows, right?
Yes.
Gary always puts on such good shows. Like, I miss doing shows with him.
Yeah, we had, it was me, Zach Hammond was there. He's very funny. And Hurricane was there. Oh, there was one other comedian. I can't think of what his name is.
Do not know Zach Hammond, but I know Hurricane, because Hurricane he used to be somebody who you didn't see at the open mics a lot, but I've seen him, I feel like, every single open mic that I've gone lately. So
he's such a genuinely nice guy.
I never talk with Hurricane, honestly.
Yeah.
But I've been told that by Karen, and a couple of other people.
Yeah, he's very nice.
Because Karen also has a huge soft spot for Hurricane.
Yeah. Yeah. Upcoming, I'll be in Hal's Vidjam. Ryan and I are in rehearsals for The Addams Family coming out. That'll be July 21st through the 23rd over in Duncannon.
Oh, so it's only 2 days, The Addams Family.
Yeah.
Man, I hope I'm off or can like make a viewing of that at some point.
Yeah. Yeah.
I missed Cafe Murder was one night only though, right?
Yes. Yeah. Okay. Yeah. So it'll be a fun show. And I'm available for whatever other people want to do.
I'm also available, but I feel like I need to refine a lot of my comedy. So you might want to give Hal a month to go to more open mics and refine bits a little bit more before he figures stuff out. But I am very much available and can do audience work for an entire 10 minutes, which is terrible, but
fair enough.
Yeah. That's the improv brain, basically, is just like,
we love that.
I don't do audience work very often because I'm just very like, the improv aspect of things, it's the easiest thing in the world for me to just riff with audience members. So it's not something I want to do usually because this will sound weirdly, what's the word I'm looking for? Like, arrogant, but I'm pretty good at audience work already, and I'm not that, like, what needs work are the jokes, so that's why I usually do that instead.
Fair enough.
Because I remember Keith Paradise, like, when I was still trying to, like, the first year I was doing stand-up, like, still was working on bits, still getting comfortable on stage, and then I would shoot the shit with him afterwards, and I remember one time he was like, gee, Hal, you're actually a really funny person in real life and, like, away from the stage. And I'm like, that's a perfect comedian compliment.
Yeah.
It's like my dad telling my sister, like, you look really good in clothes.
That's funny. All right. I think I've run out of steam. I don't know what else to talk about, honestly.
Yeah, that's fine. We're about an hour point at this point. So.
Okay, good enough.
Yeah, thanks everybody for listening to us. At some point, we're going to have Lennon Free on the podcast.
Lennon!
I keep, like...
it's all of our faults.
I didn't reach out to him this week, but you know, we keep talking and we keep, like, running dates, and Lennon's like, oh, I can't do those dates, and I'm like, I can't do those dates, and I'm like, we'll get this right eventually one of these days. But yeah, we got a lot of fun stuff coming up. Summer is coming around. You know, everybody, I hope you enjoy your Memorial Day. Hopefully you have a nice cookout. Hopefully you're not too anxious about things. And just remember that Hal and Shannon are always here for you in a weird online friend capacity. So have a wonderful day, and we'll see you next week.